Hello, in this lab what we're going to have a look at is the VMware Distributed Resource Scheduler, or DRS. The objective is to use the DRS cluster, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to prepare the host for the lab, then we're going to populate the DRS cluster, we're then just going to verify it works correctly. The purpose of DRS is twofold. The first functionality of DRS is to give us initial placement of virtual machines on the host that is most capable of running that virtual machine. The second purpose of it is to allow us to have load balancing of virtual machines. And then we could really say a third purpose is to allow us to use a thing called distributed power management, which will allow a host to go into standby mode when it's not being utilized. So what we're going to do first of all, we're just going to come in here and we're just going to power off a virtual machine on each host. So we'll power off Brian05-1. Haven't done it safely, but it doesn't really matter. And we'll also power off Tracy06-1. And again, we'll do that one safely, but again, for lab purposes, doesn't really matter. Now that we've done this, what we need to do is we actually need to add our host to the cluster. Now the cluster's been pre-created for this lab, so if we just edit the settings, we can see it's set up for DRS, and it's set to manual, and it's got aggressive in the case of the migration threshold. So we'll click OK at this point here. Now what we want to do is add the host to the cluster. Really straightforward in VMware. We just grab hold of the host, drag it up the cluster and let go. I want to just get rid of these resource pools. I'm not going to use them again. So we'll just click next, click finish. Do exactly the same thing with server 6. Drag it into the cluster. And again, we're just going to get rid of all those resource pools. So click next and click finish. Now one of the other things that was set on that cluster was the fact that it's actually been configured for high availability. So as we can see down at the bottom here, the hosts are being added to the cluster in order for HA to be enabled. Now because this is my lab environment, these red little blobs here are going to stay on here. I've got a number of issues with the lab based off the fact that I haven't really set up redundancy for the network, don't have syslogging set up, so there's a couple of issues, but they're issues I'm not really concerned about on the host. As long as the cluster doesn't go red, I'm fairly happy. So just to show you, click on the summary tab here. What we can see is we've got a few issues here. So there's no network management redundancy, the host has no isolation address defined, and system logging is not configured. Like I said, not an issue in the lab environment. So now that we've done that, we're just going to verify that the cluster does work. Now because it's set to manual, when I power on a virtual machine, I should be asked to place the virtual machine on a host. So what we'll do here is we'll just power on Brian05-1. What we can see, it's asking where do you want to put it. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to put it on the lower numbered host, which is SC server 05. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with Tracy06-1. And again, we'll put that on the lower host. But as you can see, DRS is already trying to load balance. It's trying to put it on the higher numbered host. But what I want here is I want to stick this virtual machine on the lower numbered host as well. So we've now got that running on there as well. And really what we want to do here is just ensure that we have all of the virtual machines really sitting on the lower numbered host. So what we'll do here as well is we'll just come down here. We'll grab hold of Tracy06-2, which is currently running on, as we can see, SC server 6. So all we'll do here is we'll put that one on 5 as well. Allow a vMotion to kick in. And we'll just move that virtual machine across as well. So click finish. Just click on server 5 and just verify that all the virtual machines eventually will be sitting on server 5, which they are. Next thing we're going to do here is we're just going to generate some CPU activity, because what I want to do here really is I want to get DRS to come up with some recommendations to move the virtual machines for load balancing. So we'll just open the consoles one by one. What we'll do, log in. And we'll just log in here. That's because I didn't shut it down safely. I'll just click OK. And all we're going to do here is just kick off the CPU busy. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other 3 virtual machines, but rather than bore you watching me do that, I'll just pause the video while I kick off the CPU busy on the other 3 virtual machines. Okay, as we can now see, yep, CPU busy has definitely kicked in. All the virtual machines are showing all sorts of alarms all over the place to say that we do have an issue now with the DRS. So we'll now highlight the cluster. Within the cluster, click on the DRS tab. On the DRS tab, we can see we've got a couple of recommendations in place. Just before I click on this, I'll just have a look at the summary tab, and we can see down here that the load is completely imbalanced. Current host load, standard deviation, figure. Doesn't really mean anything to me, but there you go. And then if we just have a look at the distribution chart, we can see that, yep, these virtual machines are definitely overloading this host. So they're definitely causing an issue. So what we now want to do is we just want to kick off these recommendations. So we'll come back to DRS, apply our recommendations. We have a look down at the bottom here. We can see the virtual machines migrating across. So we'll have a look at the host. We can see 2 virtual machines now on 5, 2 virtual machines on 6. Let's just go back to our resource distribution chart, refresh our chart. We can now see that everything's balanced here. We'll just close this down here, have a look at the summary page, wait for everything to catch up, click on the lab cluster, click on the summary page, wait for this to refresh, and what we should see after everything refreshes fully, we should see that the load becomes balanced. So what we'll do, pause the video just while everything catches up with itself. Now we can see load is balanced. We've got 2 virtual machines on one host, 2 virtual machines on the other host. If we have a look at just that, the distribution chart again, we can see that the 2 virtual machines are near enough balanced. So that just proves that DRS does what it's supposed to do. It does the initial placement of the virtual machines, also does the load balancing as well. So that's the end of this lab. Thanks very much.